right, donkeys. Now, we went a little bit over time because we were trying that out. Let's go to our friend in just a second. Let me get a sip of my coffee.
I'm here.
Never supposed to drink on camera, but I just did because that's the kind of guy I am.
Breaking all kinds of rules.
You know what? I'm just a rebel without a cause.
Yeah, clearly.
All right, Danny. So here's what we're going to do. Let's do this. Can we stitch the video together after the fact?
Yep.
We'll do some calls now. We'll do some calls at the end of the show. And then when the sound off comes out on YouTube later on by itself, you can stitch them together?
Yeah,
All right.
that can be done for sure.
All right, let's do it. Can we go to you now on the screen, my friend? Are you ready to be on screen? Look at that.
And I am here.
What'd you think of my Monday morning analyst there?
It was good. It was good, really good. I like the little Apple password.
You know what? It's only the highest level of technology here on the MMA Hour. If there's anything that has been a hallmark of my career, it's the finest of things. All right,
it was good. I liked it. We should do more. You should do more.
We'll definitely do. That was a bit of a test run, quite honestly. That went a little bit longer than I thought, so we'll budget time a little bit differently going forward. All right, but with that being said, let's just jump in right to it. Calls, Danny.
Let's do it.
Let's hear them.
So, big weekend, obviously, with UFC 229, but I feel like we do have to, pay respects to Bellator. They had an amazing card, so let's talk a little bit about that before we do the UFC stuff. So here's our first caller.
Hey, Luke, man, big fan of the show. This is Benito Nelson. I'm calling out of Raymondville, Texas. And my question was, do you think that Gegard Mousasi is the most underrated fighter in MMA history? And also, do you think he is the best fighter to never get a chance at the UFC belt? Thank you. I enjoy the show. It gets me through my day or through my morning commute to school. And I'll be watching later. Have a nice one.
All right. That's an interesting question. Fedor is probably the best fighter to never get a UFC title shot, but I think what he's implying is
that fought for the promotion.
Right, exactly. You have to be in the organization in order to even qualify for one.
Exactly.
So I would say he's probably up there. He is. If he's not number one, he's certainly in the top three, man. That's a fairly easy call. That is a guy. He's so talented, dude. When I was watching him go through, I mean, I have tremendous respect for Rory MacDonald. I think those jabs he wasn't expecting, I think they kind of disrupted his concentration, and that's why I think the Eminari roll was off. And then from there, man, it just went from bad to worse.
I think Rory thought that he was going to have the speed advantage in that, being the smaller guy. But, Mousasi's a pretty quick guy.
And his timing.
And, and I think that threw him off. That definitely surprised him. And I would say so. And it's weird because it's almost like a thing with middleweights where they fall under this. A lot of middleweights fall under, best UFC fighter to never fight for a belt. For me, it was always Michael Bisping, right? But then we know how that ended. Then Yoel Romero, and then now he's getting all kinds of title shots, right?
Yeah.
And now it's Gegard Mousasi. That has to be him. Maybe TJ Grant at lightweight. He never really got one officially, right? Never fought.
After the concussion, right?
Yeah.
Last thing about this, when I've interviewed Mousasi a number of times, he'll be on the show a little bit later. He's told me, he's like, I've had a number of injuries and they kind of held me back during different portions of his career. And people don't want to hear it. Oh, I was injured. You're making an excuse. Yo, man, it's real. Like, look how much better he is now. It's obviously true that it kind of held him back a little bit.
Cool. Let's move up to heavyweight.
All right.
And talk about that.
Hey, Luke and Danny. This is Josh from Vancouver here. I was just wondering if you guys think Rampage Jackson would be a top 15 heavyweight in the UFC after his performance this weekend at Bellator. Thanks, boys.
That's
serious
funny.
question, by the way.
Would he be a top? Look,
I mean,
hold on. That's a good
let
question.
Me pull this up.
For the rankings,
it's a really good question. I honestly feel like he might be.
I don't think that's that crazy at all.
It isn't.
The number 15 heavyweight is Justin Willis, who I actually think is pretty good. Then Stefan Struve, Arlovsky, Shamil Abdurakhimov, and Tai Tuivasa. I think those guys might wrestle him, in which case, no. But if they stood, could he be? Yes. Yes, he could.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
if they chose not to take it to
right?
the ground, I think the answer is yes.
I mean, think about it. A fight between Stefan Struve versus Rampage Jackson. It could go either way, right?
Yeah. God, you know what's funny about the whole, he doesn't want to fight a wrestler? Dude, Rampage used to have lights-out takedown defense.
Yeah.
You ever seen the Kevin Randleman fight?
No, I mean, not out of the top of my head. I've seen highlights.
One of the best prides ever was Pride Body Blow, which that fight was on, and that was the first time Fedor fought Nogueira. Dude, Kevin Randleman, remember Kevin Randleman? He was an amazing wrestler and built like a brick shithouse.
Freak,
Dude, he could not get Rampage down. Rampage had unbelievable takedown defense.
Yeah.
But I guess over the years he just got tired of that. So
And also, he still does. I feel like,
Yeah.
like a lot of the times people shoot on him, he stops it, but then they just stay in a stalemate, whether he's pressed up against the cage,
Yep.
etc.
Yep.
You know, and that's not the type of fights he wants to be in. But yeah, so the answer to that, maybe.
I think maybe, yeah.
Yeah. All right, now let's talk about UFC 229.
Hey, Luke and crew. As my name is Scott Anderson, I'm from Boston. Like an Irish kid from Boston, I'm obviously pretty excited for this weekend. And while I'm looking at the fights, it kind of makes me think with 25 years this year of the UFC and kind of celebrating that, everyone's toting the Conor fight as the biggest fight ever. But my question is it actually the most important fight ever? And if it's not the most important fight ever in UFC history, then what is? Thank you guys so much and enjoy the fight this weekend.
So it's a great question. Everyone's talking about this is the biggest fight in UFC history, which it could be, very well be. But what about the most important? Is it the most important fight in UFC?
It's a loaded term because, like, what does important mean? Obviously, I will tell you that it has, like, implications for divisions, implications for greatness, implications for careers. And in that sense, this is highly important. At the time, I will say this, at the time, the rematch between Penn and St. Pierre felt like the most important, the second one. In the end, it ended up being a bit of a wipeout. But heading into it, that one felt like, well, because if you've never seen the first one, I mean, Penn was tuning him up early, very badly. Arguably could have won that fight. I would say that one probably was the most important, at least heading into it. But this one's pretty damn important. That's why it gets me. It's like, oh, the bus incident. Man, forget the bus incident.
Yeah.
There's so much more than the bus.
That's why I hate the promos that are going around. It's like it's all about the bus, as if, you know, the bus incident happened and then that's why we got this fight. No. There's so many other reasons why this fight should be happening. But, you know, back to that question, I think this is, for the biggest, there's metrics, right? There's traffic, you know, how many people are talking about it, pay-per-view sales. For most important, I feel like it's a thing with time, right? Like, you know, Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin. Like, yeah, that was an important fight.
Sure,
but we didn't realize the importance of it till after, right? Yep. So I think the same with this. We'll see what happens, you know, a year down the line or a few months.
It really depends on who wins and how they win.
Right. And then what happens after as well, right?
Right, sure.
All right, so now let's talk about numbers for UFC 229.
Okay.
Hey, Luke and Danny, big fan. My name is Dennis. I'm calling from a dump known as Bridgeport, Connecticut. I just want to talk about the possible pay-per-view buys for 229. There's a lot of people talking. Dana White saying possible $3 million. Some of your colleagues, former colleagues, 2.5, minimum $2 million. I just want to know your thoughts about that, your opinion on what you think we could be looking at. And so what would you consider a failure? Anything below $1 million? Anything below $1.5 million? Yeah, just your thoughts on that. P.S. Soccer's boring.
Who?
Yeah, I couldn't understand what he said there at the end.
So, something's boring?
I don't know.
I mean, if you're going to have a zing, you got to be intelligible.
And it's got to be clear, right?
Yeah, it's got to be clear. What good is a zing you can't understand? Okay, I would say anything below $1 million is a failure.
For sure.
Anything below, you know, I would consider 1-2 be borderline bad, but 1.5 would be fine. 2 would be great.
Yeah.
2.5 would be incredible, and I'll go from there. I'll go in those incremental $500,000 stages.
Yeah, anything below $1 million, it's a complete failure. I mean, I would even say like 1.1, 1.2. It's like for the biggest fight in UFC history, like not a huge failure, but definitely not good. And then I would say anything above 2 is a great success.
Okay, I could buy that.
Yeah. All right, now let's.
Oh wait, what is your prediction of what it will do?
Oh,
are you feeling it, dude? You heard me in the opening. I'm feeling it, man.
Yeah, I'm not.
No,
not yet.
See, you're burned out. That's the problem. I'm
I
telling you, this
don't know.
affecting everyone's enthusiasm.
I mean, it's interesting because I've talked to some people that are casuals and they're like, "Yo, you know, the Khabib McGregor fight. Like, people know what's up." But I don't know. It's just like the amount of promotion. I think once, you know, it's still fight week. Fight week starts today, right? Well, technically Tuesday with all the events. Right. I think once I see the reception around that, then I'll get a good gauge of how's it gonna do. But my guess it does. I'll choose 2.
Okay, I'll go 2-2.
Okay, cool. Now let's move on and let's talk about the trash talk that's been going on between Khabib and Conor.
All right.
Hey, look, Danny, this is Diego from Mexico City. I'm a huge fan. And with a press conference scheduled for Thursday, we should expect a lot of the same thing as the last one. especially now that there's going to be an audience. So I want to know your opinion as someone from the media. Where would you draw the line between mental warfare and showmanship and disrespect and unprofessionalism? Because we know Conor loves interrupting and responding even if the question is not for him. And as a fan, I really want to know what both fighters have to say. And I find it really annoying. So I can only imagine what it's like for you guys to ask a question and not get a response. Muchas gracias y saludos desde México.
Saludos a Mexico, and shout out to our international callers, right? You can always email themmahour@voxmedia.com if you don't want to call our hotline. So yeah, is there a line between mental warfare and being outright disrespectful?
There is no such thing as professionalism or any line about professionalism inside MMA. The only line is, do you do anything to jeopardize the fight? Anything else is fair game, and fair in the sense of it could be terribly demeaning and awful things to say. But I used to point this out. Ricardo Mayorga used to tell his opponents he was going to drink their wife's breast milk. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface of unprofessionalism. You know, people. I mean, I thought the thing is, Conor's like stoking these ethnic and cultural tensions.
Yeah,
and we'll see where that goes. I don't know how good of an idea that is long term, but like it might I'm not saying that does, but I'm saying individual things I've seen may or may not bother me. But folks have had like, is it crossed the line? Yeah, of course. The fight game is about crossing the line. The sport is about crossing the line. So to me, the answer is it's all fair game. This is one reason why weren't fans of the first press conference, because they'll be like, Conor, are you going to knock him out? And then it's ole, 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 ole for 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get on Thursday probably. But yeah, I mean, and this is something I feel like Dana White has always gotten right. They've always asked him about, well, what do you think about this fighter saying this and this fighter saying this? And he goes, hey, look, this is the fight game. These guys are going to get into fist fights. You know, they're about to fight. Of course, they're not going to say nice things to each other. It's nice to get, some fighters be very respectful, like the GSP, but it's the fight game. Anything goes.
Now, the last thing is, what if someone called another fighter the N-word? See, there's you getting here's the thing. Like, materially, I'm not sure how much worse that is than other things. Although, let me be clear about this. It's absolutely reprehensible in every way imaginable. What I'm saying to you is that's one of those cultural touch points here that if somebody did that, there would just be so much outside pressure to knock that off. Then that's the case. But materially, you can say really nasty things to each other without much of an issue.
Yeah, there's definitely things that are off limit and things that I'm sure the UFC will act upon if they do come up.
But for the most part, not really.
Yeah, there's very few things though. So I'm going to leave you with this question, and then I'm going to get Michael McDonald.
Sounds good.
Sounds good?
Yep.
All right.
We'll do these calls also a little bit later in the show.
Cool. Yeah.
Hey, Luke. Hey, Danny. My name is Mike, calling from the DMV area. Hope to run into Luke sometime over here. My question is,
I'm a hermit.
Do you think Khabib will get any of this rub from Conor if he beats Conor? Or do you think that, in a way, this could end up making him like a heel or making everyone hate him for taking down the king? Thanks. Appreciate it.
Well, he would have to win first, and there are no guarantees about that, right? If Conor wins, then forget about it. Although I still think even with a loss, if he performs well, he could maintain some level of extra popularity. So you run into one of these situations where it's like, is this the Amanda Nunes scenario with Ronda all over again, where Ronda loses and there's no rub? That's possible, but I don't believe it. And the reason why is because Khabib has already much more of a following, both domestically and abroad, than Amanda has, I think, in either of those cases, even to this point. He has a pretty unique following in Russia, I think worldwide. He's got a lot of fans as well. And here in the United States, you saw the Khabib army show up to AKA and go bananas. And that's just a small group of guys, but it's indicative of, I think, a larger set of people who are really interested in seeing him compete and do well, who are fans of his. So to me, let's say he wins, and again, there's no guarantees for any of this, but if he wins and he wins dominantly, then yes, he'll get some rub. Will he take McGregor's place as the world's biggest MMA superstar if that happens? I don't think so. I don't think anybody can take his place, certainly not right now. But can he boost his profile? For sure. And by the way, if you're expecting to see me out in town, good luck. Your boy stays under lock and key, son. I'm out there. I'm not hanging out too much.
So you saw the big news came out, right? That now they're no longer going to announce potential violators, right?
Yep.
So we have a question about that. Let's hear it.
Hi, Luke and Danny. This is Rahul from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada.
USADA has apparently started to not release possible violations until after they conclude their investigation. For a fan like me, I think this is a good thing because of how fighters are generally prosecuted in the court of public opinion whenever they fail a test, like a Yoel Romero or a Josh Barnett or a Tim Means. But on the other hand, could this be a bad thing where the UFC basically kind of strong arms USADA into not releasing positive results and prosecuting a certain fighter if that fighter is, big business for them, like a John Jones or a Brock Lesnar or even a Conor McGregor?
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. So, good question. Basically asking, what are your thoughts on this whole USADA thing where they're not going to release any more names until, everything's sorted out?
Okay, good question. Here's my answer. My answer is that I'm massively in favor of it. I think it's absolutely the right call. Athletes are entitled to privacy. I don't know why this is a controversial idea, but it appears to be for some. Again, it's not. I don't understand why. But here's the reality: anti-doping and privacy, they can coexist, but they are constantly within tension. The more privacy you have, the less anti-doping ultimately. And now this is less of an issue about testing and more about disclosure. But I'm just pointing out that's really what you have to figure out when you're debating what the important move is here is how much privacy do you want to give and how much leeway towards anti-doping. I would say this is one of the better ones because it doesn't affect their testing protocol. It doesn't affect their adjudication protocol. It's merely an announcement. Now, I will get sticky, and I absolutely take my hat off to Sean O'Malley for getting out in front of it, for not hiding behind it, for declaring what it is. And by the way, look how much better it is. He gets to set the narrative. Exactly. He gets to go out and do it. And by the way, you could say, well, why should he be able to? Because they changed the policy for fully a third of these being overturned. It is absolutely the right call. I applaud the UFC for doing it. I'm sure it was painful and debated and difficult, but the athletes are entitled to some protections. I'm glad they gave them some.
Yeah. This should have been done from the very beginning. Sure, the announcement's still going to be the same. Like, the fighter cannot compete. Like, O'Malley can't compete at UFC 29, right? That's a fact. But he gets to go out there and say it himself. And I think that's huge because as soon as these USADA headlines come out, potentially flagged for, anti-doping, failed tests, whatever, like immediately what people think is just, steroids, that person failed a drug test when it can be like a number of things, And now with this, fighters get to, first of all, think, what's, how's the best way to process this and, really, take on the situation with honesty and present their case out there to the public, right?
Yep. All right, well, look, you want to try and reach Mr. Mousasi?
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to reach out to him. Do you want me to leave a question for you?
Sure. Yeah, do that. That'd be great. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So here's a Diaz Poirier question by a female caller.
Oh, look at that.
We got a lady calling.
All right. How about that?
Hi there, Luke. It's Jo here calling from jolly old England. And my question to you is, what do you think would happen if both Nate and Dustin turned up to the weigh-ins and both weighed in bang on 165? Would they have to scrap the card? Would they make it a catch weight? What do you think would happen? And do you think there should be a 165-pound division? Thanks, bye.
You know what? It's a good caller right there. Thank you so much. Shouts to jolly old England. I don't think they would do that because, number one, they would just lose money. The UFC would fine them both. And I don't think they're in the business of giving up cash. You could make the point that they would try to make some point together, and if the two canceled out the punishment by them both being on weight that way or off weight, then maybe that'd be different, but the punishments would be handed out irrespective of any of those concerns. So no, I just don't find that very realistic. The one thing that's kind of interesting is, has anybody reached out to the New York Athletic Commission to see if they'd be sized for this? I wonder if they would be in favor of it. Now, the Association of Boxing Commissions is prepared and I think has already passed guidelines in allowing for 165. But the bigger issue here would be to what extent the New York Commission would be willing to accommodate this on short notice and bumping up 170 ostensibly to 175. Would they keep any other? Let me look at the card here real quickly. UFC 230. Okay, yeah, Siri, I don't need to talk to you. Who else is on that card? Let's see. You've got a welterweight fight with Lyman Good and Sultan Aliyev, and you've got, that's it, and then some middleweight fights. So you do have the one welterweight fight. Would they bump that to 175? Would they just keep it at 170? Hard to say. So part of this would just be a function of regulatory willingness. But we'll have to wait and see.